Hi everybody, it's Noelia with My Moxie Dreams. Thanks for joining me today for Plan With Me for May 15th through 21st. We are already in the middle of May. I know I say this every time I do a Plan With Me, but my word, you guys, it just goes by faster and faster. It's just bonkers. Anyways, if you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this content, and if you do, it would be amazing if you subscribe to my channel. For my regulars, thanks for being with me. I read your comments, and I keep telling myself that I'm gonna respond, but I just run out of time in my day. But I did read your comments about wanting to hear the drama, so as we get into the planner, we will talk about the neighbor drama. Let me get this out of the way. I have been in the garden nonstop this past week or two, and so some nails have broken. I've got dirt from the garden, and so please don't be distracted by these ugly nails, okay? We will get them all nice and pretty once everything is transplanted into my garden. All right, let's dig in, shall we? Again, for those of you who are new, I have a pocket Moleskine daily inside of a beautiful, luxurious, yummy brown Eternal Leather Goods pocket wide. I am in love with this little planner, so much so that I've tweaked it a little bit, and I'll share that as we get into it. So what I've decided is that rather than do a plan with me every week, I'm kind of doing one every 2 weeks, because a theme like this one, I kind of love what I'm doing and don't want to change it. So it's kind of redundant to do the plan with me for the same thing. So if you remember, we have our May theme. Here she is in all her glory. And I created stickers to kind of match her for the month. And I liked this theme. I didn't want to kind of go out into a different color scheme. I did have pink that would bring out these really pretty pinks, but it just didn't stand out in the page the way that I wanted. So I'm just gonna stick with the gray highlight and then just highlight the red stickers and the poppies or whatever we said these were. I can't remember what we said these were. So I am recording this on a Friday, and so I've yet to fill out Saturday and Sunday, but I knew that I wasn't going to have time over the weekend, so I'm just going to jump in and do that now. So like I said, I am sticking with this gray. I think it's N95, and we have till the 21st. Yeah, that makes sense. That's right. Okay, so let's just get started with our highlighting. Okay, I am gonna share, since it was an overwhelming vote of knowing what was my neighbor drama, which is so funny now. It's so funny now, guys. Okay, so a couple weeks before prom, actually it was like a month before prom, a situation arose with a cul-de-sac, a person who lives across from the cul-de-sac. I will put up a photo somewhere on the screen so you can understand where the houses look like and the road and whatnot, okay? So we have a company truck for my son who goes out in the vineyard, or employees go out, pick up the truck, and it sits down the street. It's actually my neighbor at the end of the street, end of the cul-de-sac. And again, I'll show you, I'll have little dots indicating. We have this company truck, and listen, I've had this company truck for years. This is like the 3rd or 4th year that this company truck has been with us, and it's only with us during the vineyard season. Okay, so for us, the vineyard season kind of starts up in March when the weather starts to kind of turn and it starts to, spring has sprung. And that's when we go out and do soil samples for the vineyards to just see where they're at, what needs to be added, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Soil amendments, whatnot. Okay, let me get my little thing here. And so for the last 3 years, we've had, where is my thing? Oh, here it is. For the last 3 years, we have had this truck during the season, March through about September, October, parked on my neighbor's side road. It's technically okay, let me just start. It's all public parking, okay? Nobody owns the parking. However, oh, did I start with Sunday? Ooh, let's make sure I don't go past my thing, guys. So this truck has been parked in the same spot during the season for 3 years. The last year, when we've had friends, because we live on a cul-de-sac, I literally only have one space in front of my house because I'm in like this weird circle. And so there's this weird little angle that I have a parking space up front. So I have 3 cars. I have my son's car, my daughter's car. And then we have this company truck that is parked out on the side of the road. Again, same place for 3 years, guys. So since, I don't know, I want to say it was the beginning of this year, maybe end of last year, every time I have people who come and visit me, or we have a shindig because of the pool that I have, they will park behind, and again, there's nobody who parks there, behind the company truck. And during this time, this neighbor who is highlighted red house with the devil ears, the devil horns, to signify the problematic neighbor, he has approached people, family, friends who've come over for pool parties last year, and he'll ask them who they are and why they're parking there. Now again, guys, you'll see the little diagram that I put up for you, okay? Nobody is parking in front of the house. The company truck is not parked in front of his house. It is across the street, parked on the side of my neighbor who we're very close with, his house. But again, public parking, we can park anywhere we want. So it's happened like 2 times, 3 times. And my son, keeps telling me, he's like, Mom, this guy keeps approaching me, or, people, friends of ours and family who park there. And it's like he gives them 20 questions as to why they're parking. And it makes my family and friends uncomfortable. Like, why is this guy asking why we're parking here? Like, it was very odd. So it happened again. It happened recently where, again, an employee was picking up the company truck. And when I say company truck, it's a Toyota Tacoma. It's a beautiful, brand new Toyota Tacoma, a normal truck. It's not like a big company semi truck or something like that, right? And so we're grabbing our words, guys. And so it happened again where he approached somebody. This time it was my son. He approached my son again. I think it was his wife who approached my son and asked why he was parked there. And I'm like, what the hell? I've lived here for 10 years, you guys, and have never had any issues with anybody. And especially this particular parking, because I've had this company truck for 3 years parked in the same spot, again, seasonally. It's not parked there all the time. And it gets moved 2 or 3 times a week because the employees need to pick it up and go get the soil samples and whatnot, okay? So my son comes to me and he's like, Mom, this dude again, or his wife this time. And I'm like, what in the devil? But he's like, Mom, it's fine. Just don't say anything. It's fine. So I was like, okay, I'm going to let it go. Like I had the last 3 times. So I had to go to Sausalito for a meeting, and I come back and I notice that there's this SUV parked in my little tiny weird angle. And there's a little, again, another little diagram of a little dot in front of my house. It's the most weirdest parking area, because if you know about a cul-de-sac, you know, the little round part, there's like this weird little nook of a parking. Like you literally, it's the weirdest thing. But it is a parking, and we typically park my son parks his car there. Well, that particular day, we noticed that somebody parked there. And the way all of our neighbors are is we don't really say anything. We're just like, oh, okay, maybe it's one of our neighbors having company and they parked there. No big deal. But the car was parked there for a couple of days. And I'm like, that's weird. I think by the second day, I was like, that's weird. Whose car is that? So I go to my next door neighbor, and I'm like, to my left, my next door neighbor to my left. And I'm like, hey, bud, like, is this your car? He's like, no. And I'm like, I wonder if it's, I recognized it as the person, the devil house. And I'm like, I think it's theirs, but I don't know. And he's like, yeah, I don't know either, but he's like, I'll find out. So the next day, the car's still parked there. All right. And again, not a big deal, but to me, it's like this guy had approached my son now for the 4th time, or actually him or his wife, either one has approached guests and whatnot regarding parking across the street from their house, which is my neighbor, my corner neighbor's area, I guess, technically, but it's, again, public parking, you guys. And so my neighbors come and they're like, yeah, it is his car. And they're like, all of them come out. They're like, why is he parking here? Like, what's the deal? And I'm like, I have a feeling it's because we're parking our company truck. And everybody in my cul-de-sac is like, yeah, but Noelle, you've had that truck for 3 years for seasonally, and it's always been parked there. Like, what's the big deal? I go, I don't know. And all of a sudden, for him to be petty and to park his car in front of my house in the most weird parking spot. And again, everywhere else in the cul-de-sac, there's parking, but he chose to he purposely parked in front of my house. And to me, you guys, that's sending me a message, okay? And so I was like, after we confirmed that it was his car, I was fuming. Like, I've lived here for 10 years. Why is this guy trying to start problems with me? Again, this is a couple of weeks before prom was going to start. I'm going to have 10 families parking their car here. Like, what does he think? So I was so fuming that day that I'm like, you know what? I'm going over there, threw my jeans on, walk. And mind you, this guy always has his garage door open. Always has his garage door open because he's always tinkering with his motorcycles and whatnot. And I should preface this, that we are the only Mexican family in this cul-de-sac, okay? Only Mexican family. If you've seen me, you know that I look Caucasian. My children look Mexican and Asian because they have Japanese in their blood. And so, and the new neighbors who moved in at the corner of the cul-de-sac where we park our truck, they are an African-American family, a mixed family who we love and adore. They've been such an amazing addition to our cul-de-sac. So now we have 2 kind of people of color. Everybody else, is Caucasian in our cul-de-sac. This gentleman is also Caucasian. And that shouldn't matter, but it does matter in this story. So let me continue. So he parks in front of my house. We realize after the second day that it is his car. Okay, guys, pausing here. Here is everything with words. We're gonna go ahead and add the numbers, and then we'll start decorating. So once I get confirmation from my neighbors that it's his car, I'm now fuming because I'm now feeling like that is the message he's trying to send. He's now being petty instead of coming over to my house and knocking on the door and being like, hey, it really bothers me that you park across the street from my house. And he could have said something, but I know, think about it. It sounds so dumb that he's going to come over here and say, I'm really bothered that you're parked across the street from my house. It doesn't make any sense. So that first day I was fuming. I went over there, and I'm a Taurus, you guys. I'm a Taurus. Enough said. If you know, you know. So I went over there that first day, and like I said, he normally has his garage door open because he's tinkering with his little motorcycles and whatnot. He closed the door as soon as, and mind you, he saw all of us neighbors like huddled around in the cul-de-sac trying to figure out whose car it was. And once we figured it out, he closed his garage door. And once we figured out it was his car, and I was livid, I was like, I'm gonna go over there and chat with this dude. So I go and I'm fuming, and by the grace of God, he did not open the door, because I know in that moment I was being reactive. I was coming from an emotional place, and he would have had good reason probably to call the cops or think I was this crazy Mexican lady coming over to, you know, yell at him. So by the grace of God, his sliding door, his little screen door was open. He knew it was me coming over, and he refused to come to the door, because I would assume because he knew he was wrong. I'm going to take the glare out of there. He knew he was wrong, and he wasn't going to have an answer for why he parked his car in front of me, when if you look on the little diagram, he has like 5 parking spaces in front of his house, and he could park across the street. I mean, there's so much parking. We're near a school, so we get people parking along this way all the time, and there's no issues. By the grace of God, he didn't open that door on Monday, because I was going to give him a piece of my mind. But by the grace of God, and my sons were like, Mom, please don't make a scene. And in that moment, I probably was. And it's a lesson. And I remember sitting down with my kids and saying, look, this is why, you know, I'm glad he didn't answer the door, because that is me being reactionary and going and trying to resolve something when I'm in my feelings. And you can't resolve things when you're feeling that way. And so I've always been the type of person, I learned this at a very young age, thank God, that I am a Taurus, and I am reactionary sometimes and can get riled up pretty quickly. And so it's super important that I've learned to calm myself and separate myself from a situation before I address it. And people sometimes take that as me giving them the silent treatment, and it's not the case. I just know myself well enough to know that in order for me to process my emotions in a mature manner, I have to step away from the situation and let myself calm down, let myself, you know, like just figure it out. And so that's a little... So he didn't answer the door. Hallelujah, praise Jesus. So the next day, everybody's just chilling. Do I want to do this? I don't want to waste the washi tape, guys. And this looks like a captain's hat. I'm not gonna like it, so I'm gonna take it off. So the next day I was calmer. You know, I had discussed with my kids, it is an example like why you shouldn't be reactionary. And I was glad that he didn't open the door, because it would have been, you know, he would have had the upside, because I was the one going over there acting like a lunatic. And so the following day, I was like, okay, I'm just going to let it be. I'm not going to make, go deal with it or whatever. But the next day, I was, getting something from the car, and I noticed because since then he hadn't been opening his garage door, because I think he knew that we had figured out that he was the one parking there. And so he just didn't want to be confronted or whatever. And so on this particular day, he had his thing open, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk right over there. And can I just say, I looked so cute that day. I was so cute. My hair was cute. I was in these cute jeans, and I was feeling super confident, and I was just like feeling myself that day. I just felt good in my skin. And so I walk over there. And before I walked over there, I walked over to my neighbor at the corner house, the African-American family. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to head over there. I'm like, I just want to make sure, like, you're okay with me parking there. He's like, Noelia, of course. Like, why do you even ask that? Like, that's crazy. Like, and I told him, I go, prom's coming, and I don't want problems with this guy, him making a scene with the families who are coming over. He's like, no. He's like, do you want me to stand here as your protection guide? Because my kids did not know that I was going over there, because it just happened so fast. And I'm like, no, I'll be okay. He's like, well, I'm looking out the window in case you need me, in case this guy gets unruly and you need me. I'm like, okay. So I walk over there, and he had his dog on a leash, but I am an animal person. Like, I'm not kidding. A bear can come up to me and they'll sense that I'm like so Mother Earth. I'm born on Earth Day, so they sense my energy, that I'm just like accepting and loving, and they like just. I've had police dogs do this with me. It's so funny. Anyways, the point of the story is he had his dog there to kind of like be a protector. And I walk up and I say, hey, neighbor. I say his name. And the dog barks once, and then he sees he feels my energy, and he comes to love on me, and the neighbor is already annoyed that the dog is like all lovey-dovey with me. And do I want to do it this way? Let's try it this way. And so I'm like, hey, neighbor, call him by his name. And he gets up from his tinkering, and he's like, hey. And we're now in the front of his driveway, in his garage driveway. And I'm like, so yeah, hey, neighbor, I just wanted to come over here and like clear the air if there's any issues that you want to address with me. And he's like, I'm sorry, who are you? And I wanted to laugh so hard, because I'm like, yeah, I've lived here for 10 years. We've had maybe 5 waves of hello. Sorry that the camera's shaking. 5 waves of hello. Like, of course you wouldn't know my name, because we don't interact. We've never had problems with each other prior to this, right? This is all I'm thinking in my head. And I said, oh, well, hey, neighbor, I'm the one who lives right over there. And I point to where he's parked his car. He doesn't know yet that I know that that's his car. And he says, oh, hey. And I'm like, hi. And he's like, no problems. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let me kind of fill you in. So I tell him, I said, look, this is my company truck. And I point to the truck. And I said, it's parked here every season. It gets picked up 2 or 3 times a week for my crews to do what they need to do. He's like, yeah. And I said, or I didn't even address that yet. Let me rewind. I didn't address that yet. I said to him instead, I was like, yeah, so like, I just wanted to clear the air, because, I've had family and friends who stop by get questioned by you or your wife about why they're parking here, and they get like, kind of, you're getting a little aggressive, and they feel uncomfortable with the fact that they have to like ask you, or that you're questioning them. And he's like, oh, no, like, oh, I'm sorry, like, no, that's, and he's kind of fidgeting a little bit, and he's like, oh, no, not at all. And I'm like, he goes, I only did that one time. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I've been told you've done it one time, and your wife, or you've done it twice, and your wife has approached my people once. And he's like, oh no, it's just because, he's like, it's just because right there where people park, people have gotten hit, their cars get hit. And he just made up this whole story. And I'm like, listen, I'm super calm. Like, I am calm as a cucumber, completely opposite of the day before where I was like ready to rage with my horns. And so I'm calm and I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, oh, cool. And he's like, yeah, this is why. And I'm just concerned that, people who park there are going to get hit. And, and I'm like, oh, well, thanks for being such a concerned neighbor. But I'd really appreciate if you don't, if people park there. I said, I don't know if you know this, neighbor, but it's public parking. People can park wherever they want. They don't need to be questioned by you whether or not they can park there. He's like, oh no. And he was like nervous. Okay. And again, I think he wasn't expecting me to confront him. And certainly you could tell he wasn't used to a woman confronting him. And so he proceeds to give me his reasons. He's such a, caring neighbor. And anytime people park there, my people of color, because everybody who's picked up the truck or parked there has been Mexican people. And so he's like, yeah. And so I'm like, oh, cool. All right. Well, I'm having prom in the next couple of weeks. And I just wanted to come clear the air in case you had something to say and wanted to talk to me about, because I don't want all my parents, I have 10 families coming over, and I don't want them to be questioned by you when they come over. I just feel like that's kind of inappropriate. And so I wanted to handle this ahead of that so that we don't have problems, during prom. He's like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, cool, like totally nice, okay? And I go, so just double checking, neighbor, we don't have an issue. You don't have an issue with me. He's like, no, not at all. And you're just, approaching people who park here because you're concerned that their car's going to get hit. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, okay, cool, neighbor. So question for you. He's like, yeah. I go, is that your car parked right in front of my house? Then his demeanor changed. And he's like, yeah. And he's now getting extremely uncomfortable. You can see his face turn red. His ears were red. His face was red. Like, he could probably have, he was pissed. He was extremely pissed. And so he says, yeah, that's my car. And I said, And I look around to the street he lives on, and there's no cars parked anywhere. If he wanted to park in, somewhere, he could park in front of his house or in that area, the street that he lives on. And I said, well, neighbor, to me, that seems like you're trying to send me a message that because I'm parking my company truck on the opposite side of the street from your house, that somehow you want to prove to me or somehow send me a message that you don't like that. So you're going to park in the one spot I have to park in my house. Oh, no. I said, and he's like, I was tinkering and I needed room. I go, so of all the places to park, you chose the most awkward place to park, that little weird nook circle area. And he's like, oh yeah, well, and he didn't know what to say. He was like fumbling. I said, all right, Jim, well, I'm just letting you know that that's clearly, I'm interpreting that as you sending me a message, and I'm letting you know, message received. If you have a problem, I said, I have a cop, multiple friends who are cops, and I've asked them if there's anything I'm doing wrong by parking my truck here. They said no, just like there's nothing you're doing wrong by parking in front of my house. You're welcome to do that. It's public parking. Yeah. And he's like, yeah. Oh, Noelia, 100%. Yeah. I just needed more space. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to have a compost truck deliver, stuff for my garden. So it would be good if you moved your truck, because where he parked his SUV, that is a boat. It used to be a boat ramp to my, that backs into my back fence where a person used to park their boat, but I open the gate and use it to have deliveries of compost and things like that for my garden. So I told him, I'm like, hey, you're welcome to park there anytime you want, but I need you to move it by Saturday because I'm having a compost truck coming and picking up or dropping off. He's like, yeah, oh no, okay, good. He was livid, but he was holding it together. I'm like, well, it's good. It's good to know you don't have an issue with me, and it's good to know that you don't have, there's nothing you want to get off your chest and chat with me about because we're adults, and I'm super calm. I think that was what was driving him insane, is that I was so calm and so unfrazzled by his demeanor, even when he was getting really angry, that, that he was caught off guard, clearly, of my calmness. I think he was wanting the crazy Latina to come out in me, like on the day before, but thankfully, calm Noelia went over there. And so I was like, okay, I came back, and the kids and my neighbors it was so funny. They all come over and like, oh my God, what did he say? And because we're all so close, our little cul-de-sac people. And so they're like, good for you, Noelia. You could tell he was uncomfortable, and good for you for addressing it calmly and whatever. So we all waited for him to move the car that evening, and he didn't move it. And I'm like, okay. Next day, he didn't move it. I think I went over there on a Tuesday. Monday was when I went over crazy mad. Tuesday, I went over super calm. And it was Tuesday, like midday. So I was waiting for him to come move the car that evening, and he didn't. So then it was Wednesday, he didn't. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to play fire with fire. So I took my car and I parked it right in front of his house. The way he had parked in the most weird parking spot that we have in our cul-de-sac in front of my house, I parked my car in front of his house and I didn't move it. I was like, you know what? You want to play this game? We both cleared the air. You said you didn't have any issues with me. You refused to move your car because you're trying to be petty. I'm going to play the petty game. And I parked my car there. It wasn't even there a full day, and he moved his car immediately because he realized, like, you're playing with a tourist now, sir. And you're playing with somebody who came over here like an adult to talk to you, to try to resolve this situation so that after 10 years of living here, I've never had an issue with my neighbors. I don't really consider him my neighbor, but I've never had an issue. And for him to just suddenly start this drama 2 weeks before prom, I was freaking out because I was like, I don't need this right before prom. And so I left my car there for not even a full day, and he immediately moved his car. And I refused to move my car. I was like, I'm going to keep it there another day to teach him a lesson that if you want to play with me, I will play the same game. I hate to do it, but I will do it. And so after about the second day, I finally moved the car, and I waved to him. And when I had the car there, my car parked in front of him, I would wave, be like, hey neighbor, how's it going? And it was killing him that I was literally killing him with kindness. I was being super nice, waving, saying hello. I even sent over a tomato plant for his wife. I'm like, oh, look, you guys like gardening? Here you go. It burned him so bad that I was taking that high road, but I was taking the high road and I parked in front of his house to say, you don't like the way that feels. I don't like the way that you've parked in front of my house for a week. I would have respected him more had he said, you know what? Yeah, I'm actually annoyed that you've parked your company truck there. He didn't have a leg to stand on to even say that it bothered him because it wasn't parked in front of his house. It was parked across the street at my neighbor's house, who was totally okay with it. And again, public parking, guys. I think I have it here somewhere. It's going to be so funny. Let's look. And so... I'm looking for the entry because I know I wrote it down somewhere. Dude moved his car at 4 p.m. on Thursday. And so I would have respected him more had he come knocking on my door before he even parked his car there and said, hey, I wanted to chat with you. I'm really bothered by this. And we could have chatted, and talked about it. And I probably been more amenable than how he approached the situation. He ended up moving his car on Thursday. I ended up moving the car probably Friday. And that was that. And we've gone back to not acknowledging each other like we had been for the last 10 years. All my neighbors were like, what in the heck was wrong with this dude? I made it very clear that I wasn't going to tolerate that I would stand up for myself and my kids. And he was clearly taken aback by that, but he now knows not to mess with me or my family, or certainly anybody in this cul-de-sac. He personally knows not to mess with me because I made it very clear, like, I'm an adult. I will come over here and confront you, have a calm conversation with you. In the future, if you do have an issue, come to me, man. Come to me and let me know, and we can hash it out, because I am a Taurus, 1,000,000% stubborn, and horns do come out. However, I am so level-headed and so wanting the best for everybody. It's how my heart is. So had he come to me in a respectful manner, and we could have chatted about it and come to some agreement or maybe some understanding, but that wasn't what his goal was. His goal was to be petty, and he thought I wouldn't call him out on it. Boy, was he wrong. So I ended up coming back, and the kids and I all sat and chatted about it. And I'm like, look, you know, sometimes things are uncomfortable. Sometimes people are going to try to push your boundaries. And so we sat and we talked about it, about how important it is to speak up. So the kids understood. And again, they have such respect for me and know that I know how to handle myself, and that I'm not fearful. I guess you could say I'm fearless when it comes to confrontation, because I just feel like we can resolve it like adults. So that was the drama, but he behaved and didn't cause any problems for prom. We had a blast. Yeah, and that was that. That was the gist of it. Okay, I am filling this out. My boss and his wife, well, they're both my bosses. I work for both of them in different capacities. For my birthday, they bought me a top of the line package here in the Napa Valley of a spa day, and I cannot wait to have this spa day. Like, I genuinely cannot wait. Okay, spa day. That's pretty much it this particular week. And then we just have, I like to highlight this little area, even though I put the sticker there first. Look at our week, shall we? We just finished. Here I have to go. I'm not going to put the name. I'm just going to put spa day. And it is literally a 7-hour day. Spa day there, and everything else is kind of, I probably will go to Sausalito, but they haven't told me when yet. There's our plan with me, guys. I can go through really quickly. I think I did that while I was talking, but really quickly go through how I've been kind of going about my week. These little things, oh, they're so cute. Anyways, there is our May plan with me. Thanks for joining me on this crazy plan with me, chatty plan with me for sure. I've enjoyed sharing the craziness with you all the time, but I really appreciate you guys, and I just want to thank you for being with me today. If you are new, again, I would love if you would subscribe, hit that notification bell, and you will get alerted when my craziness pops up with the video again. All right? I will see you all soon. Bye.